Warning: this video contains significant spoilers for The Shadow Rising, Book 4 of the Wheel of Time, and mild spoilers through to the end of the series. Viewers beware.
Hey everyone! So this week I'm going to be doing something a little different. The YouTuber Riddhima, it's a great channel by the way. I'm going to link to her channel in the description below. She is a Wheel of Time booktuber, but she also reviews other books as well, mostly in the SFF genre, that at least the ones that I've seen. Great channel, again, link in the description. But she has created the Accepted Test. It's a Wheel of Time book tag, so yay! Us Wheel of Time booktubers, or Wheel of Time YouTubers, or Wheel of Time tubers? What tubers? What tubers? I think I like that one. Okay, us what tubers, we get our own book tag. So without further ado, let's just jump into the questions, shall we? All right, the first question we have here is, how did you first hear about the Wheel of Time and what made you want to read this series? Okay, well, I've told this story before, but for me, I first heard about these books, or the first one anyway, Eye of the World, in either my second or third year of university. I was taking a course called Fantasy, Myth, and Language, and as part of that course, we read Lord of the Rings. It was a book, or books, depending on who you talk to, that both of my roommates at the time were super into, but I had never read. And so they were really excited for me to read it. And it took me a while to get into Lord of the Rings, but once I got used to the writing style, quite honestly, I just couldn't put the book down. Like, I carried it with me all the time, and I remember having it beside me while I was driving, and I would pick it up to read at red lights and stop signs because I couldn't bear to be away from like this book and this world for any longer than I absolutely had to. Anyway, when I was finished, I was wanting that experience again, like of being swept away into a fantasy world. So I asked my roommates to recommend me a fantasy book. And I was clear that I didn't want a series. One of my roommates at the time, she was reading through a fantasy series with her then boyfriend, and it was a really long series. And so I knew that in fantasy there are just a lot of these like epically long series. So I asked for a standalone book recommendation so I could just try out the genre, because aside from some like children's classics like Chronicles of Narnia or like the Wrinkle in Time books, I just hadn't read any fantasy. So I guess my one roommate must have mentioned it to her boyfriend, because he came over a few days later and just handed me the Eye of the World. He had started it, didn't like it, and was giving it to me instead of throwing it out, I guess. And I mean, that was it. The one part that is kind of interesting though is that because I had specifically asked for a standalone book, I assumed that it was. And I got to the end of the book and was just confused. Like, it seemed like a very odd way to end the story. It didn't make sense, but I just thought that it was like, that's the end. And this happened in like the early 90s, so it was before looking things up on the internet was a thing. I just didn't even question it. And it was a few months later when I was in a bookstore and I saw a cover that reminded me of that book that I read and liked, but that ended kind of weird. And I picked it up, and it was The Great Hunt. And I saw that it was the sequel to The Eye of the World. And then I don't know, there were maybe 4 or 5. I don't even know how many books there were at that time, but there were maybe, I don't know. I bought all the ones that were published at that time, and I just devoured them over the next few weeks. And yeah, I joined the ranks of people who were waiting for the next book. And as we all did, I just kept rereading them while I waited. Okay, so question number 2. If you had the chance to join an Adja in the White Tower, which one would you join? And then based on the one you pick, answer the corresponding question. Okay, so for what Adja I would pick, I think I have to go brown. I love the idea of spending your life learning and studying. I remember, oh gosh, back in middle school, in Sunday school, being asked, what we thought heaven was going to be. And oh my gosh, everybody else, we had to write it out. And if I had not written it out, I would never have read this out loud, because it was embarrassing when I heard other people's, they were all, oh, meeting my family. And mine was a library with all of the books in the world. God, sorry. And then just this idea that like every book that would be published like from like throughout eternity, throughout time, would be in the library, and I would just have all the time in the world. Oh God, I'm such a nerd. Anyway, so the idea of just spending your life like that is amazing, and doing it as an Aes Sedai who can live for hundreds of years, so you could just like indulge every single one of your interests. You know, you could focus on history for like a few decades and then branch out into maybe biology or, you know, archaeology or something. It would be fun. It would be so fun. Sorry. Just, I might edit that out because that was embarrassing. Anyway. And then, okay, the corresponding question is, what is your favorite piece of lore or world building? Okay, this is a hard question. And to be honest, you're probably going to get a different answer from me depending on when you ask me. But for right now, I think the one that stands out to me is the Tinkers and their link to the Aiel. And it's their search for the song. You know, when we're first introduced to them searching for the song, it sounds like some sort of meaningless ritual, like it's a formality. You know, the Tinkers insist that it's a real thing, but I mean, it's a song. You know, that doesn't make any sense. How can you be searching for a song? Because you're not, if you don't know the song, then you're not going to know if you find the song when you find the song. And then we learn through like that way back ter'angreal in the Shadow Rising that the Tinkers are an offshoot of the Aiel. And when we go further back and we learn that the song is a real thing, it's part of their history that they lost. I find it really beautifully sad, you know, and I understand that it wasn't included as part of, you know, the end of the battle, because I guess they wouldn't find it until after the battle anyway, but it's one of those untied threads, you know, loose threads, I guess, whatever the expression would be, those loose ends, that's the word I'm looking for, that I find myself thinking about a lot. Like, will they ever find it? Will they ever realize that the song is the song, like, from, you know, helping seeds to grow? Like, I don't know. I think about it occasionally. Okay, the next question we have is, if the Black Tower had Adjas, what might they be? Okay. All right, one Adja I can see being made is like a craftsman Adja. Like, sorry. We have Andrel, who is, but he's like a leather worker. He makes saddles or something. And he's found a way to use Saidin to enhance his leather work. I can see this being like a thing. Like, in this world, for all people will say this world is a world in which women are more powerful and whatever, it's still very prescriptive gender-wise, and it sticks to like our world's sort of gender heteronormative roles as to what jobs people have. So virtually all the craftspeople we see, like the people who make things and make objects and make tools and make anything really, virtually all of them are men. And so I can see these craftspeople going to the Black Tower, like being like, oh, I was a carpenter before, and, you know, let's see if using the power can improve upon building things just with my hands. Like, can I make the wood stronger? Or can I use it to, I don't know, bring wood together in ways that you can't do using natural means? Or, I don't know, you fix wagons. Let's see if the power can be used to make that even better. And, okay, thinking further on that, then, like, there could be some sort of agricultural Adja, because again, farming was almost entirely in the domain of men. And so, I don't know, there would be people who were farmers coming to the Black Tower, and that, I can see it just being a natural interest and sort of an Adja growing out of that, if they would call it Adjas. I don't know what they would call it, but something like that. And actually, just as an aside, another Adja I can see coming from both the Black and the White Tower, now that the Dark one has been sealed, you know, Tate's been cleansed, is an artistic Adja. Like performing arts or visual arts or something. I don't think it would be huge, but like, I imagine using the power to create sculptures and paintings and music and costumes and stuff. Like the things you could do in that vein with the power would be incredible. And I think that there, like, now that there isn't like a big bad to fight, I can see that sort of developing. All right, the next question is, who is a character you love but would hate to meet in real life? Oh, man, this is another one that's really hard for me because I want to meet them all. But okay, of the characters I love, the one I think I would want to spend the least amount of time with is Tom. I would still want to meet him, but only briefly, like maybe take a selfie or something, and then go and sit in the audience and just watch him perform. I have a feeling that being around him all the time would get exhausting. Like, I think it would always be like either performing or lecturing or pontificating. Like, he's just always on, and it would just wear me out. All right, question number 5. Who's a character from another book that would make a good warder? Okay, I'm gonna go with my first instinct here, although I think it's gonna end up sounding ridiculous. The first instinctive answer I have is Reepicheep, the talking mouse from the Chronicles of Narnia. All right, okay, so hear me out. Okay, he's a mouse, but he's a talking mouse, right? So in the mythos of the Chronicles of Narnia, he's going to be larger than a regular mouse. He's incredibly brave and noble and loyal, and with the added bonus of like the abilities that are given to him by the warder bond, he'd be a really good fighter. And he's also a smaller target to hit, so that's good. And he's nimble and he's quick. I think he'd do well, especially if you told him that he's like fighting evil forces bent on destruction. He'd be all about that. So, yeah, going with Reepicheep. God, I'm ridiculous. All right, next question. All right, what's a scene from the books that you're most excited to see on screen? Wow, okay. Well, there are obviously plenty. But if I had to choose one, I'm going to have to say it's the power battle between Nynaeve and Moghedien in the palace. The one where Nynaeve realizes that she's an equal to, one of the Forsaken, equal to Moghedien. I love this battle. It's one of my favorite scenes in the books, and I can't wait to see it. But I'm excited and nervous about it at the same time because I can't imagine how they're going to show it. Like, scenes of characters I've seen, like in movies and TV, where they are using magic, it's usually just them standing there making like grimacy faces with CGI lights happening all around them. And I guess it's gonna be a lot of that. And a lot of the nuance and the tactics that are being used in this battle, like there's defense and parrying and thrusting and all that, it's just gonna be glossed over with just like, ooh, CGI lights, neat. In a physical battle, you can see the skill involved, but in this, I don't know. But also, I'm not an effects person. Like, I'm not a script writer or a special effects person, and the people who have those jobs know things that I don't know. So they're probably able to think of things that I can't even imagine. So while I'm nervous and a little afraid that a lot of what's happening in that battle will be lost in the translation to screen, I'm also excited because maybe it won't. Like, maybe it will be awesome. Maybe they'll find a way to do it that I never would have thought of, and I'll be blown away. So, yeah, I really hope so. So I am really excited to see it, and also really kind of nervous. All right, so next question. What are your favorite and least favorite book covers? Okay, I'm gonna assume this is referring to the Darryl Sweet covers because, like, I've talked about international covers for the first 2 books, and I do plan to eventually make it through all of them. But if you're asking for favorite and least favorite, it must be the Darryl Sweet covers. So, okay, I'm gonna go look at them because I don't remember which cover is which book. So, just a second. Okay, so I just got out all my Daryl Sweet cover images. Like, I don't have the physical books. I'm all ebook and audiobook these days because just space is an issue in my life at this moment. But okay, for favorite, if I go with my sentimental favorite, it has to be Eye of the World. It's the image that I think of when I think of these books. But if I go with my actual favorite cover, like the image that I like the most, it's Memory of Light. It's the only cover that features Rand where he doesn't look like a weird bodybuilder in his 40s. Like, I don't know, which makes me kind of sad because it's not Daryl Sweet, I think. I think it's a different artist. But, okay, for least favorite, it's a toss-up between Crown of Swords and Lord of Chaos. I very much remember the first time I was reading these books being embarrassed by these covers because they reminded me so much of cheesy romance covers, and I didn't want people to think that I was reading that. So I would hide the covers so my friends wouldn't see them when I was reading because I hate them. I hate those covers. Okay, next question. What's a location in the Wheel of Time that you'd like to visit? I hate having to choose. Okay, but this one might be a bit easier than the others because it's Tar Valon. I want to see the Ogier architecture, and Tar Valon is said to be among the best, and the groves, and oh god, I'm such a brown. The library! They have all these books and all these scholars who've been studying there for potentially centuries. They've got to have some good stuff in there. And then, of course, you've also got all the objects of the power, the Angreal, the Terangreal, and can you hear that construction outside? I don't even know what that noise is. Okay, anyway, and the city of Tar Valon is also apparently really beautiful. Plus, you've got Dragon Mount, this like enormous peak thrusting out of the ground next to the island of Tar Valon. Jordan wasn't being too subtle there. But, I mean, the view of this very odd and unique geological feature it would be amazing. Plus, you know, I wouldn't mind sitting in on some classes. I don't have the spark, but maybe I could learn to channel? Who knows? Okay, moving on. Next question. If you could make a Terangreal, what would it look like and what would it do? Well, my first choice actually exists in the books. It's that Robert Jordan cameo Terangreal ebook reader thingy. Like, when I saw that in the books, all I could think was, please get this to the Browns as quickly as possible. There is so much knowledge in there. There's so many lost tales and legends and literature just lost to history. Plus, there's nonfiction. So there's probably explanations of ancient technology and objects of the power and how to use a Terangreal that the Aes Sedai have never been able to figure out and all this stuff. Oh my god. Just thinking about it makes the brown in me so happy. But, okay, that's cheating. I need to come up with my own. I need to come up with a new one. So, one that I would love right now is a traveling Terangreal. I just got off the phone with my sister, and she's had a baby since I last saw her. I have a niece that I haven't met yet, and with the current situation going on, it's looking like it's going to be some time before I can go to where she is to meet my niece. Getting on a plane right now is just not something that I think is a good idea. So, yeah, Terangreal that could get me there would make me so happy. And as for what it would look like, appearance doesn't really matter to me. It could look like those full boxes that Samael gave to the Shido. Like, I really don't care. But I think maybe something you could wear would probably be the most convenient. So like a bracelet or a ring maybe. And I would want it to also ring a bell in the location where I was traveling to, like it, you know, like they did in the Age of Legends, so that it would be as safe as possible, because no desire to be cutting anybody in half with my gateways. And then the final question is, what are some other books that you think Wheel of Time fans might like? Okay, I honestly haven't read much other fantasy, although I am trying to get more into it now. But outside of the fantasy genre, I think I would recommend pretty much anything by Octavia Butler. Most of her work is more sci-fi than fantasy, but there is a lot of overlap there, and it is amazing. Her Xenogenesis trilogy is just, it's incredible. And I love the way she writes. I discovered her, oh gosh, maybe 3 summers ago, and I burned through all of her books within less than a month. It was quite upsetting when I got to the end of her bibliography and just there was nothing else, and I was I didn't, if I had known, I would have read slower. But it was, I love her stuff. And now it's time to tag some other, what did I decide? Watt-tubers. Now it's time to tag other Watt-tubers. I'm going to tag the Badger Reborn and Call Me Nakomi. Get on it, guys. I'm looking forward to seeing your answers. Thanks so much, Riddhima, for making this tag. This was super, super fun. And yeah, I guess that's where I will end for today. Let me know your answers to these questions. Leave me a comment below and join my Discord. Let's hash out our answers there. These questions were great, so I'm really curious to know what your answers are too. And if you want to support me, the best way to do that is Patreon. I will link to my Patreon and my Discord in the description below. And as always, like, subscribe, and stick around for the art credits. Bye!